Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and today I'm here to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. My Best of 2020 series continues, and to find out what my top books are from Image Comics, you'll have to find out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Whew boy, I have a lot of Image books. Talked about in my previous 2 videos that I have an entire short box of Aftershock books and Boom books. Image is a lot. So to figure out how to, truncate my list, how to pick my series, it was more challenging than the ones before. And that's what I said my MO was, right? To go with what I think was the easiest decision, leading into some more of the difficult ones. And ironically, I think we've also been in alphabetical order thus far. So we'll see if I shake that up too. But I've got 6 series from Image that are in my best of category for this year. So coming in at number 6 is Family Tree. It's by Jeff Lemire with art by Phil Hester, Eric Gapster, and Ryan Cody. This has been an interesting arc, and this has been the most Jeff Lemire that I've read from everything. If you go back and look at my Dark Horse video, I'm being made fun of by Whack Comics and Comic Burrito because I haven't read Black Hammer yet, or that I, didn't pick Colonel Weird or whatever the other Black Hammer book that came out was. I don't know. But this is a series that makes me love Jeff Lemire. Between this and Sentient, the TKO book, are just 2 things that I think are absolute masterclasses in storytelling from him. If you're not familiar with Family Tree, you start out in kind of this post-apocalyptic looking world where it appears that greenery is consuming everything and there are only a few living, breathing human beings left. And then throughout the series, it kind of Quentin Tarantino's its way through time in terms of explaining how we got there, creating the significance of a particular tree, and you find out that a sibling of our main character has the same kind of condition that her father does, that she is literally turning into a tree that you see throughout the first couple of books of the series. Like, she's lengthening, she's turning into bark, right? Like, she's becoming a physical tree. And what the rest of her family doesn't understand is that she is connecting with her actual father, that once she becomes, her final arboreal form, she is able to, physically, spiritually, somehow communicate, they are all alive within a particular tree. And what you see throughout the second part of the arc, in the back half of 2020, is a little bit about why you have people who are chasing this tree down, trying to destroy this tree, and then ultimately why the brother who we meet at the beginning of the series, who appears to be the last man standing, right, why he is defending this tree. So it's a very interesting, kind of horror take, or a suspense take, in terms of, why a tree, what is really happening to the world, why is this something that maybe looks like it has spread. And it's just a very interesting read from Lemire. I believe the creative team on this does a good job kind of creating a pleasantly disorienting world in terms of, being taken over by foliage, but learning why, members of the family seek to so forcefully defend it. And the final book of this arc just came out either this week or the week before, and it's on my to read pile sitting over there. So we'll see once I read book, is it 11, 12, 10? Once I read book 10, if I go, damn it, I should have bumped this higher, damn it, I'm mad. Because it's going to be one of those 2, right? Very rarely in an arc-ending book do we all go, it was okay. We're either very excited and want more now, or we're pissed. Coming in at number 5, Nailbiter Returns. This is by Joshua Williamson. I should have written down the first names of everybody else. But Henderson, Gazowski, and Hill. So I did not read Nailbiter when number 1 came out. By the time number 3 of Nailbiter Returns came out, I knew I had to get my binge on. So between picking up all 6 of the individual trades from my LCS Chops Comics, and then Rad Raptor in Michigan that I've bought a couple of things online from, I was able to binge all of them real quick. And I really loved the world of Nailbiter, right? That it was this crazy slasher world that, you know, it was heart pounding, it was cinematic, it was all of the right things. And when it ended, I was like, how the hell is there a Nailbiter 2? Right? What kind of magic are they going to pull off? And in Nailbiter Returns, I really feel like the creative team does an excellent job of like reinvigorating the tradition and the reason why a lot of people really enjoyed the first run of Nailbiter, but keeps you guessing in new and different ways. So what you discover early on in Nailbiter Returns, and you'll notice that I've got doubles of almost all of them, and I don't know why. But what you notice is that, people return to Buckaroo, that they think that everything is going to be fine after the end of Nailbiter, right? That serial killers are done, they are all, killed. The curse of Buckaroo, Oregon may be gone. But then what you discover throughout the first couple of books is that the butchers are back. And these are not just people like Nailbiter who they thought were recently killed, but all kinds of, big names of the most famous serial killers from the town that have been exported across the world. And as you kind of discover over time, there is a contest that is playing their way out amongst people who are imitation versions of these serial killers, and you learn ultimately, I guess, spoiler, Nailbiter's not dead. So that's the biggest spoiler that I could give you. But you discover that there's the origin of a game that they've been playing that our 2 primary characters from Nailbiter created when they were first in love in high school. And more is constantly evolving. In the portion of the arc where it's at now, you're getting a lot of interesting kind of flashback that is in a very weird, Archie sort of way. So how, when Riverdale, the show first started, and it became the dark version of the Archie comic, that's kind of what it feels like in the most recent 2 Nailbiter books, that we have this incredibly violent world that they're kind of turning back into some sweetness. So if you watch the Riverdale series on Rewind, it's almost the phenomenon we're getting from Nailbiter, but it's a good secondary series. If you love big, bloody, gory, slashery kinds of things, then this is for you. If you read number 1 and you loved it so much that you were afraid to read the second arc, which is a thing for some people, or the second series, pick it up. It's good. It does all of the right things right. It continues to find new ways to keep you guessing, new twists and turns, and it's very enjoyable. Coming in at number 4, Big Girls. This is all done by Jason Howard, and it's fantastic. I believe the way that I summarized this in my first weekly rankings video when issue number 1 came out was Attack of the 50-foot tall woman 60-foot tall woman meets Pacific Rim or any kind of kaiju film. But it's an interesting world where you are learning that there is some kind of genetic anomaly that when it happens in girls, they become normal, just huge women, right? That 50, 60 feet tall women. And if the mutation happens in males, then they morph in to the kind of beasts that we see happening along the periphery of the cover, or if we look at issue 3, right, they morph into something like that, and you get to learn about the history of our primary big girl and how she is kind of the shining example of this mutation done right. But halfway through the first arc, you learn that she may be able to communicate with the mutated entities that, you know, originally she is told to kill all of these things because they wreak havoc on the sanctuaries where humanity is left alive. And when Ember hears somebody speak before, like, she goes to kill it, she's like, what did I hear? And you get a big, like, battle royale between two of the big girls themselves over whether or not these entities are friend or foe. And it becomes interesting because there's some kind of underlying conspiracy to it in terms of where this mutation really came from. There become some good questions of who exactly should be trusted in this world in terms of giving out the information. You know, anytime there's a kid who is shot in the head in the first 3 pages of a book, you know that a scorned parent is going to show up, and that plays its way out in, you know, book 4 or 5. So I think it's a really kind of engaging story that you have something that just feels like, you know, a big monster smash and destroy kind of book, but it also finds a way to tell kind of a personal, intimate, and emotional story that I think is really, really cool. That I think, looking at everything that Jason Howard does on this series, shows that he is a creative, all-around talent in terms of the writing and the artistic ability, and I'm very excited to see where this series keeps going. Coming in at number 3 is Undiscovered Country. This is by everybody and their mother under the sun, because you can see that there are like 12,000 names on every issue, but Snyder and Soule have a very interesting look at the dystopian future of the United States. That what you discover in the first arc is that something has happened to create a great walling off of America into a bunch of different territories, and arc 1 is focused on a particular territory. The second one, they make it through a gate into the world of Unity, which is kind of a technological utopia, and you start to learn about not just the differences between the individual walled off provinces in terms of like people and culture, but you learn about their attitudes that, you know, connect or create disconnects between the different provinces. And I think the second arc is really as brilliant as the first, because they really make this, you know, the Unity province, the Unity territory feel very, very interesting, and they find a way to keep looping through the overarching conflict between Destiny Man, who I'm still sad that I don't have a helmet with a bunch of different kind of glowing fluorescent horns that I could change in and out, that I'm jealous of Destiny Man there, and Uncle Sam. But it continues to play with the idea that these territories evolve differently, that time happens differently, technology happens differently, that communication happens differently in all of these areas, and it keeps me, you know, constantly guessing. The other thing that I like at the end of each book is they have kind of this constant timeline and feeling like you're reading micro chapters out of a new American history textbook that is walking you through the walling off period each time. And I really feel like Arc 2 does a good job of using that back matter from the first arc to kind of fill in the gaps, to add context to the event. So very, very interesting series. I'm excited to see what happens ultimately in all of the different provinces, and to figure out what has caused all of these shifts after the Great Walling Off. Sorting out the bottom portion of this stack was easy. That I like all of these books, but my gut was very, very helpful in going back and forth in terms of building this stack of 3 through 6. 1 and 2 I still don't know if I'm going to do it right. But it's where my gut's at now. And I think this one might get me in trouble again. So sorry. But coming in at number 2 is Philadelphia by Rodney Barnes, J. Sean Alexander, and Luis NCT. The second arc found a way to be wilder than the first in terms of looking at the still rekindling the relationship between father and son. You know, this new introduction of, you know, the scariest vampire in the second arc. Jupiter is the most terrified I am of anything that I've read. That Jupiter gives me nightmares, right? And I like this Scotty Young cover because this is all about, you know, Abigail Adams. What is her plan? Was she really pulling the strings in the first arc? But it kind of went from, you know, after the end of the first arc, and we know that there is an active vampiric threat in Philadelphia, then it becomes a question of how do they step up their game, and that's where this book just continues to get more and more bonkers. The other thing that I like is with some of the characters that continue to work through the series, you're starting to get a little bit more of a backstory in them and how they may have turned, how they've become a vampire, and we learned that maybe we get to see Thomas Jefferson in the future. But very, very good story that continues to find its way to take new twists and turns. You know, I'm very excited to see how successful the entire team has been on this book, and up until maybe November, it was solidly not just my book of the year, but I know there are a lot of people who think Philadelphia or have put Philadelphia at the top of their list. But in the 11th hour, something snuck in, and it done got me good. So coming in at my number 1 book of the year from Image Comics is The Department of Truth. It's by James Tynion, Simmons, and Bidkar. I'm a bit of a sucker for conspiracy theories, right? I do teach history and government. I do like to explore those things as thought experiments with kids, but we're living in a world where conspiracy theories, right, the conversations about fake news and alternate facts are things that are becoming more real, right? The more people who are believing, you know, things like QAnon, the more people may start questioning what they believe is actually true or false. And this series is interesting because that we know, right, we know there is this entity known as the Department of Truth that does things with conspiracy theories. And, you know, book 1 sets us up playing with the Kennedy assassination, but also playing with flat earthers as a way that somebody gets involved in the new department. Issue 2 focuses on a good old 80s myth of, or conspiracy theory of, you know, satanic teachings at preschools. And then book 3 focuses on false flag operations, crisis actors, and those kinds of things. And while it focuses on a different conspiracy theory each time, we're starting to get little clues over time as to what may be the big overarching, like, threat, you know, since there may not be a traditional villain yet, but there are little relics of the past, right? In issue 3, like, they noticed Jack Ruby's hat somewhere and they're like, oh shit, right? That there are these little Easter eggs here and there that are creating a grander, like, existential villain, existential structure that they're going to have to challenge, you know, later in the series. And I'm all about it. I think the reason why this just barely passes Philadelphia for me in terms of becoming my Image book of the year is the way the art is used. I think if you were to compare Philadelphia to Department of Truth from an art perspective, I really think J. Sean Alexander is a fantastic artist, and you should, check out Lost in Comics interview with him. Hell, they also interviewed Rodney Barnes, Acid Comic Burrito. You should go check out those interviews. J. Sean Alexander helps create a stunning mixture of artistic styles to help scare the shit out of you in terms of establishing the world of Philadelphia. The art that comes out in Department of Truth purposefully is disruptive and distorted to really screw with your mind. I remember having this conversation with a couple of folks, and one of them was with Dustin of Two Brothers, where he originally talked about not liking the art because it looks very, distorted, and, it looks sloppy is a bad insulting word, but comparing it to other books, it may look so. But the intention of the art is to really get you... Daddy. The art is intentionally created in Department of Truth to get your brain misfiring so you can understand what it feels like to have new information revealed to you, right? That if you found out that all of these conspiracies were true, right? Or if everything that you fundamentally believed in your worldview as true is false, right? And you get new information and new evidence thrust upon you, it's really gonna give you a crisis of, oh my God, what do I believe, etc., etc. And I think the art does a good job of creating the distortion for the reader to help create the same kind of emotional moments that the character is having at that time as their brain is kind of freaking out as it doesn't know how to process the new information, the new thought that it's dealing with at the moment. It's that use of the art to help me feel that same kind of thought distortion that, the characters throughout the series are going through is something that really, really is intriguing to me. And it gives me a lot of hope for how good I think this book will continue to pan out to be in the future. I love Philadelphia to death. I think it is one of the best written books in comics right now. And when I create my overall ranking of the books from these different videos, I might cheat and add Philadelphia to that list too. But in terms of what this book offers to the medium of comic books and graphic novels and, anything else, visual art, it's just got me to think about the subject matter on a different level. And it's something that I haven't seen in other books that I've read recently or as I've been playing catch up. And it's really that reason, and that reason alone, why it's, inches, centimeters, millimeters ahead of Philadelphia to be my pick of the year for 2020 from Image Comics. So what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Are there books from Image that you think that I missed? There were a couple that were on the list and off the list, on the list and off the list, like Lost Soldiers and A Man Among Ye, that I'm reading a lot of Image books. I love a lot of Image books, but these 6 series, everything that came out for them in 2020 was solid, and if it's a series that's continuing in 2021, the bar and expectations are set high, but I think they will meet them. So let me know what you think. We'll discuss these books or books you think I missed in the comments below. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.